Hello, good morning, everybody. Welcome to my first stream. That's a Camp Nano prep. As the title suggests, I'm going to be working on things to get ready for Camp Nano, which is a little over a week away because it starts 2 Saturdays from now. So I've been working on my series Bible to get ready to write my second novel in my series during Camp Nano. And I've also been going through, outside of the sprints, I've been going through all of my reader feedback, my alpha reader feedback on my first novel. And one thing I never did was decide on the actual government. What was the ruling body? What did it look like? Because I do have a continent that has 4 kingdoms. One is inhabited by nobody, but the other 3 do have people living in them, people and different races, because it's not just humans, but they and stuff as well. And but in the first book, it's in just this one kingdom, and I never figured out, but the king had not been there for like 20 years. And I was like, well, I just kind of threw stuff in when I wrote the book and never really figured it out. So I actually used chat GPT this morning, AI, to say, hey, okay, so fantasy setting, create a kingdom, in the 11th century where the king has been absent. And I gave some ideas, like, the main kingdom town, the main city is on the coast. So it's a coastal city with a lot of trading, and, give some more particulars about it. And then, it worked out really well. So there's a lot in there. I'm going to start looking through it and see, okay, what I want to keep and what I don't want to keep. I tried to do it earlier this week, but I wasn't liking what I came up with on my own. So I did get some inspiration by using the AI program. And I thought, oh, well, since you made me a ruling council, I didn't say that to the AI program, but I was like, since you made me a ruling program or ruling council, I was like, give me names for these people and what are they like? And so I started getting some ideas from that. I didn't like some of the names. But yeah, I think I recorded or screen recorded everything. So I think I'm gonna put it up as a video because I think it's interesting because there is one, I came up with a ruling council, but I was like, but one is the main leader. So then I threw in a high counselor. And then I said, okay, give me a name for a high counselor from the 11th century or before that. And all my names have meanings in my story. And I've done a lot of research to try and figure out what names I wanted, and discarded some names all based off of meaning and how it felt. It felt like if it fit the character. And so it gave me some names for the ruling council, the high counselor. It gave me one, and I was like, nope, that doesn't fit him at all. So I said, okay, the high counselor needs a new name. Please give me a name meaning that means this, or this, or this. And it came back and it said, those have negative connotations. We can't do that. Basically, the AI said, I can't give you names because of that. And so I was like, and they said they need to know why, right? So then I did another prompt where I was like, okay, so the high counselor is like this. This is the type of person he is. Now, can you give me names that mean the same thing? And it said, oh, now I understand. Yes, here are some names. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So I thought, yeah, that'd be kind of a cool video to put up for everybody, in case you guys were interested in seeing that. So we have some people showed up. Hello, Cool Gamer. How are you doing? Angela, hello. How are you? Sprint break with Lindsay, popping over to thumb. Thank you so much. Yeah, I did to pop into Lindsay's channel. I need to pin it. I'll do it when we go on our first sprint here. I'll pin at the top of the chat, but it's also down in the description box below. There is a Google spreadsheet that will give you all the sprints that are happening today if you want to go check those out. And Dalara, if I'm saying it right, Pavlotsky, hello and welcome. I don't think I've seen you here before, so welcome to the channel. I am going to be doing some 45-minute sprints today. I hope you guys are okay with that. I really need to get into my prep work, and longer sprints work better for me. I found that out. I found that out quite recently, actually. I don't mind the shorter ones, but I tend to kind of get into a groove. And it's like when some of the shorter ones stop, I'm like, oh, I just got there. And they have to kind of it takes me a minute to get back into the groove again with the next one. So I like the 45-minute sprint. So that's what I'm doing. And I hope that is all right. And Angela says hello to Dalara. All right. Well, I usually do have like a question of the day, but I have gone through a few in my head and haven't come up with any. So I think what I'm just going to put out there, and I'll put it up on the screen on the next one. Oh, let me know what you guys are working on. I'm so bad with this. What are you working on today? Are you prepping for NaNoWriMo? So yes, I am definitely prepping for it because I have a, I'm not really an outliner, I'm more of a discovery writer, but I do need some plot points to kind of like have a map of where I'm going. Now my middle plot points, they do tend to change as I'm writing the story because I am a discovery writer. So I've written down already kind of things that I know I want to happen. I've revisualized the first 3 scenes. I always visualize the beginning and the ending of my stories and the series as well before I ever start writing. But I've already been visualizing this novel as I was writing the first one because it's concurrent. It happens on kind of at the same time as my first novel, so that once I publish these, you can read any of the books in any order. At least the first 3 books. The 4th book has to be read after the first 3 are done. But so I'm ready to get started on that. I'm looking forward to writing it, but I am trying to make sure that I have a good foundation. Since I'm a discovery writer and I just kind of make up stuff as I write, I need to have a good foundation for the government and the ruling body and all that. So Dolores says, I wrote my words for the day, so I'm here to read The Power, a book about teenage girls having powers to electrocute people. Oh, I'm going to assume that is a fiction book. Because at first when I read The Power, I was thinking nonfiction. And then when you said it's a book about teenage girls having powers to electrocute people, I was like, yeah, probably not nonfiction. So yes, reading is a great way to spend your time. Is that, I'm assuming that's probably like, I don't know, is it contemporary fantasy or something like that along those lines? The genre, is that what you typically read or write? Or, yeah. So you say you have your words for the day. I'm going to assume that means you're probably in later in the day. It's morning for me here. I'm assuming you're later. Alrighty. Well, if you guys are ready, we'll go ahead and jump into the first sprint. But the question that I was thinking of is, have you tried out AI in any way for your creative process? So I'm finding some interesting parts of it. And I'm trying to be an ethical AI user, but not using anybody's name. So I'm not trying to say like, give me a government that's set up like Sarah J. Maas or something like that. Because I do think that, that is their own, I don't want to be specific to a person because the AI will pull just generally from what it knows from history and things like that. So, yeah, so I'm trying to be ethical about it. And of course, I am taking what it gives me and I'm making it my own. I'm taking the parts that I like and discarding the parts I don't and adding to it to make it more mine. So, okay, I'm writing a psychological thriller. It's my 3rd draft of my first novel. Nice. I prefer writing that first draft. I don't like doing other drafts. So, and because I'm a discovery writer, once I get to a point in my draft, I'm like, this is not working, I'll throw it out. So I've done that. I wrote, if I look seriously at this first novel that I've written for this new series, I wrote like 4 drafts beforehand, but I always stopped. Like first couple, I stopped at 30,000. The other one I stopped at 60,000 because I was like, okay, this is not quite working. And then I did a reverse outline of all my words to come up with where I want to go. And so then I finally wrote the draft that worked. And that's what I'm using, or that's what I gave to my alpha readers. And now I've got my feedback, and that's kind of where I'm working off of for my knowing that I need to come up with my government. Hello, Anne. How are you doing, Anne Sophie? I'm going to take my dog for a walk now, but here for like and watch time. Thank you so much, Anne Sophie, and hope you guys have a good productive time. Well, thank you so much for that. And we're going to go ahead and head into the first, but I keep saying that and I'm not doing it. So, and I'm using Laura Nettles timer. I love this one. It's so bright. I live in Florida, so it's really warm today. It was actually way warm today. I don't know what the temperature was, but I walked outside to go to the gym and I was like, whoa, it's warm. I prefer cold weather, but this is kind of in the mood that I felt when I walked out the door this morning. So we're going to start with this and we'll get started in 3, 2, 1, and go. And that is time. Now let me know how you did. I started copying over the stuff that I wanted for the government from the AI and changing things. And then I thought, oh wait, I need to do a little research on some of this stuff to know exactly like proper addresses and what type of place that they live in, because I already had an idea of what I wanted one of the guys in the government to be living in. And I never even thought about that might have to change, but it's not going to have to because I did find a way to make it fit. So, but yeah, so I was just doing a lot of research on stuff and then writing down things I knew that I wanted to keep. So, all right, so we actually had a lot of chat here. I think we left off with, author Anne Sophie saying she's going to take the dog for a walk. And then Martin came in, hello. And I know that he's already gone. I don't remember what he said now, but he said he had something he had to do and he was going to make it. He wouldn't be here when we came back to chat. And then Eva came in, hello, how are you? And Jill, hi. And she actually answered the question. And which, by the way, Jill, I don't know if I know you. So if this is the first time you're to my channel, welcome. But she answered the question about AI, which let me put that up there. So the question of the day, have you used AI in any part of your creative process? And I lost my spot. There we go. I use AI to come up with names for inns and clubs and stuff like that, which is great because I did that too. Once I asked the AI to come up with an idea for a government that was from the 11th century, and I gave background of the location and that the king had been absent, so what kind of ruling government would step in and stuff. And then it gave me like a council of 9. And so I wrote to the AI, make that a council of 3. And I said, okay, we'll make that a council of 3. And they said, okay, now give me names for the council of 3. And yeah, so it was interesting. So I'm actually going to I think I'm going to do those 2 separate videos, one of just coming up with the government. And then the other one when I wanted to change one of the names, and it basically told me that it wouldn't give me anything that had a bad connotation, which one of my people are bad. So I wanted something negative. All my people's names or everything in my story that has a name, it's not just people. So like the mountains, everything, it's all for a reason. So, yeah, so I had to like work with the AI and explain the background of my character to get it to give me a name that had a negative connotation with it or a negative meaning. So that was interesting. So, did you say what you wrote before? I'm trying to see. Yeah, no. So what are you writing? So you say inns and clubs. So, I mean, I write fantasy. So my mind jumps to a fantasy setting, but this could be something more contemporary. So what do you write? Just curious. And then I say hello to them and how are you guys doing? And Eva says, doing okay, getting ready to shortly head out to Science Center. Kiddo doesn't know that we're going. I thought I'd get a few words in. So hopefully she was successful in doing that. And I asked about the Science Center, if the kiddo knew about it, because I know my youngest, he'd be so excited. And she said, yeah, he'd be stoked. And then she answered the question, know what AI used for me so far? And then Amanda came in. Good morning. How are you? And asked what she's working on. Mostly my job, but I'll be tidying up some company tonight. We're having a pizza party with some friends, which sounds exciting and fun. I also pinned at the top the Google spreadsheet with all the other author tubers who are running sprints today. So you're welcome to check those out and support other people. Hello, JK Lambo, Joanne, how are you doing? And RC Scott stopped in for a moment. And oh, Emma, hello. Actually, Emma has a sprint that is starting shortly. Another hour. So yeah. Losing my tab. Here we go. So hello, Emma. How are you doing? Like button booped. Inka, hello. How are you doing? What are you guys working on today? Pizza party. Yes, that sounds awesome. Maybe I'll order pizza for dinner. I'm by myself. If you guys didn't know, I'm by myself this week. It's spring break, and my husband took our youngest kiddo to go visit our oldest kiddo who's in the military in Virginia, and they're doing a guy's trip. So I'm by myself in the house with 3 cats. And I'm like, every day I'm like, what am I going to eat? I don't know. So I end up not eating something sometimes because I haven't figured it out because there's no one here to think about food. So yeah. I've never used AI for writing, but I have used a random word generator when I hit writer's block to come up with new directions to take the story. That's interesting. Random word generator. I think the AI would be helpful for that too. And especially if you could tell like the AI, like, okay, this is like, for instance, I was trying to come up with my government. What did I write? Actually, here we go. Because at first I asked it to come up with a government that was from the 11th, a historical government from the 11th century in a kingdom where the king has been absent. And it actually gave me like a real kingdom, the king of Arles or Arles, or not sure, but there was an absent monarch. And so it gave me a historical lesson. And I thought, oh, no, this is for my fantasy novel, although it had some interesting parts in it. So I recreated my prompt and I put, please create a historical government for a fantasy novel with a kingdom where the king is absent. The time period is 11th century. The kingdom is named Nordrun. The largest population people live in a coastal trading city. They have harsh winters and long months of cold weather. The wealthiest man is Galton, but there's one man who's elected to rule with the king's absence. And so then it was able to give me like more background. So I like that I was able to like plug in parts of my story to kind of get an idea of where I wanted to go. So I thought, anyways, I found it interesting. It's the first time I've done it. I did it this morning, actually. So it was interesting. And then Emma saying hello. And Jill says, hi, I write steamy, small town romantic comedies. Ooh, I wish I could write funny, but I cannot write funny. I have tried. I bought a couple books on it too. It's actually right behind me here. On how to write funny, but I just don't. And every now and then I'll have a reader who says that one part made them laugh, and I'll like go look at it, like, what did I do? How did I make them laugh on this? But when I try to be funny, it doesn't come out funny. So I just have stopped. Emma says, having a very minor nervous breakdown here about how much writing I have to do. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I was just listening to Becca Syme. I listened to Becca Syme's podcast, but she's here on YouTube. And I think it was from a couple weeks ago, maybe, that the episode came out, but I just listened to it this morning about the things that will stop us, like writer's block, like what will give us writer's block. And one of them is too many decisions to make. So if you're like, how much writing I have to do, and if you have other decisions you have to make, that could possibly be. I know that's true for me. When she said it, I was like, oh, that rings true for me. When I have too many decisions to make, I get to a point where I just can't work. I just have to go do something else, like, because I'm like, okay, I should be doing this, but I should be doing that. I need to do this, and I also need to do that. So which one should I do first? And I can't figure it out. So then I just don't do anything. So hopefully you're not in that position. Jill sounds awesome. Emma also writes romance, although hers is not steamy. Inca says, I'd probably use AI without realizing it. I use AI for character art until I can afford to hire proper artists. AI art is very hit and miss. Actually, and what was I listening to? Was it Joanna Penn? I think it was Joanna Penn who said, we've all been using AI and didn't even realize it, because if you use Pro Writing Aid, that uses AI. A lot of these, like, programs that help you with your grammar and stuff like that, they use AI. So the algorithms, any algorithm. So if you have an algorithm, YouTube algorithm on Amazon, they all use AI. And they learn you. So you go on Amazon, right? And you start looking at certain books. And next thing you know, you've got, recommended books at the bottom, or books that people who have checked out the same book have also looked at. That's algorithm work. That's AI picking all that up. That's not a person in there that's doing it. It is a program that was created to figure out what people like or don't like. So yeah, maybe. Yeah. I mean, it says, my sister and I invented a writing game using a random word generator. Example on her channel, whimsical workshop called 10-Minute Stories. You get 5 random words and use them in story synopsis. Oh, it's almost like flash fiction. Natalie Locke and Chandra Arthur, they do a Saturday morning stream as flash fiction, and they take turns on whose channel they're on. They both have YouTube channels. And I think right now they're editing through some of the flash fiction that they've written. But they've been doing this for a while. And I know that last year, Natalie Locke had a book at one point where it had like words in it. But I know that they also polled like the audience sometimes, like, give us a word or give us a number. And it would pick that number would go to a word in this book. And so then they would pick, I think they chose like a good 10 or 12 words. And then they'd write their flash fiction piece on it. So yeah, it's interesting. So have you used any AI in any part of your creative process? So I've already kind of talked about how I've been using it. I just started using it this morning for my creative process. I got on there. I had got an AI account with ChatGPT, which is an open AI, a while ago, but I hadn't used it yet. So I thought, well, you know what? Let me just see, because my sales have been down on my YA fantasy novel, which is that's a whole nother video I should make, because what is it? KDP Rocket? KDP Rocket just did an update where it will now show you the trends of your categories that your book is in on Amazon. And every single category my book is in, my 3 books, right? They're part of a series. Every single category that they're in, they're all trending down. And some of them is a huge, huge drop. None of them are a small drop. All of them are big drops. but some are so huge where like it's like a bar graph, and you might have one here and the other one's here. This is how it's gone down this much. And I was like, well, no wonder my sales are down if those categories are not getting hit. So people are not looking for books of those categories. It's no wonder that my book sales are down. And so I thought, well, let me go see if I can find other like keywords to put in my back end or whatever, or even keywords I could use in advertisements that might help. And so I had used the chat GPT to ask them, what did I ask? I asked a couple different things. I asked to please rewrite my YA fantasy novel blurb because I just want to see what it would do. And then I asked it to write ad copy, which it gave me a lot. So then I shortened it down to 250 characters. And then I shortened it down to, I think, 100 characters because your ad copy for Amazon ads has to be short. I didn't remember what it was. So, and then I asked it to find me 100 Amazon keywords for the YA fantasy novel. And I put my novel name in there with my author name. And it went through and pulled a bunch of keywords. And a lot of them I already used. And then some of them I was like, I hadn't thought to use those. But then I recognize some of the keywords that if you go to Amazon, right, if you go to a book that has reviews, at the top of the reviews, before you actually start reading the reviews, right above the reviews, it'll have like words and blocks. Those are like keywords. Those are words that most often appear in your reviews. And so I recognize some of those from what the AI, so it pulled directly those keywords that are most often used in my reviews. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. And I had heard the tip to use those keywords that are pulled out from your reviews. Those are words that are used over and over again as keywords for your advertisements. So yeah, so I've used it for that. I've also used it to like plug in lines from my previous trilogy. I plugged in lines from the book just to see what the AI art would give me from Midjourney. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. Amanda says, you only have 10 minutes to write the back jacket description synopsis using all 5 words. Oh, so okay. So it's not like an actual story. You're writing the synopsis description. Yeah. And, usually, typically what I do, I have not paid for any of my back description, my jacket description or synopsis, or what they call the blurb on Amazon. I've not written any of those. I've hired someone to do it. But for all of my books, I just write a summary of my books. And I thought, you know what? That took me time. It took me several hours to go through because I would go chapter by chapter and pull out the main points. And I'd pull out like 1 or 2 sentences, not from the work, but I would create 1 or 2 sentences from the main points of each chapter and put that into my summary. And I thought, oh, AI, I could just plug in chapter 1 and say, give me a 2-sentence summary. Plug in chapter 2, give me a 2-sentence summary, and just do that all the way through. And then I could just use that to create my blurb from. So I've thought about doing that. Good morning, Clara. How are you doing? And Emma says hello to Clara. And she says, I had the same experience. All my categories are trending down. It's making me nervous about my new release. Ooh, tell me again, because I don't remember what you write. I know you've told me. And did you use the new feature with KDP Rocket to look at the trends? So just curious. I know not everybody has KDP Rocket, but I love that they put that new feature in there, which I started using it the day that it came out, and or at least the day that I knew that it came out, because it was this day that everyone said, hey, guess what? There's a new feature. And it's the day that Dave Cheston put out on his YouTube channel about the new feature. So it may have been a day prior or whatever, but I started using it that day. But as the day wore on, because I kept checking different categories to see what other categories I could move my book into that were applicable. And it just kept going slower and slower, and it would just cycle and wouldn't give me anything. And so I was like, okay, I just got to leave out. This is the first day everyone knows about it. So because I struggle using keywords and categories that make it clear my book has a neurodivergent LGBTQ MC because it's YA. Amazon put it in bisexual erotica and family and health nonfiction. You can choose your own categories. You don't have to go by what they say. And if you want to know, like, your categories, your book ends up in more categories than what's on Amazon. I think some of us may know that. Some of us may not know. And there is a free site where you can go to put your ASIN into and to see all the categories that your book has been put into. Because even if you choose your own categories, Amazon will sometimes change it because they have their own algorithm that sees where sales are trending. And if your book fits what they think it fits, they will move it into a new category. But it's a BK Inc. I'll grab that real quick. I think it's a BK Inc. Tools for authors. Okay, so this is the website that you can go to. You scroll down on the page. Find your categories on the left-hand side. If you scroll down, big red button, you click that, and then it gives you the place where you can put your ASI in. And that way, because you can go, write that, there's a place where you can write an email to Amazon to say, hey, can you put my book in these categories? And you can say, hey, can you take my books out of these categories and put them into these categories instead? So I've done that a few times. Yeah, it was a new publisher, rocket feature, space opera, space adventures. Oh, that's right, because Martin, who was just here earlier, he's in space opera with his book, and I wonder if his sales are. I'm gonna have to ask him if his sales are trending down too. I'm curious of what might be trending upward, and I'm not continuing in YA fantasy. That's where my books are at right now. My next series is romantic fantasy, so I was gonna go and start looking at that, but that's when it started slowing way down on that day, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna hold off. The ones on her video are pretty funny. LOL. We ended up coming up with zombie and alien stories, desperation, which neither of us write typically, but it makes you think in a different way. Oh. Are you, where is my chat? Here we are. You are linked. Do you want to drop the links to the channel that you're talking about? Did you say sister? Guys, I do not have the best. I've already forgotten because my mind is like going 100 miles an hour. And I do go on tangents like all the time. I go on tangents on screen. I go on tangents in my head even worse. And then I forget what I was just thinking or what someone just said. Inga says it was already in the maximum number of categories. It took it out of the ones I chose. Yeah, that is such a, it like gets on my nerves that they do that, because I was like, I chose the ones I chose because I feel that that's where they would do well. And they have done well in several of them. But for me, what it was is that at one point they decided that my stories were for children, not for YA. And they start putting them into children's categories. And I would write and say, hey, please take them out of children's categories. These are not for children because there's torture and sexual abuse toward the end of the series. And I was like, these are not for children. And they take it out. And like 2 days later, they'd be right back into children's categories. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Why are you doing this to me? That your readers will be very upset if they buy this for their child. And this is what they read. Oh yeah, let me find it. Okay. Author Central fixed it twice. So I just took out anything mentioning LGBTQ or neurodivergence. It's so annoying. So you took it out of like your description, your blurb that was put on Amazon. Yeah, that is annoying because I mean, you might be able to connect your readers by having that information in there. But if you have it in there and they're putting it in the wrong categories, it's just like this is a double-edged sword there. I didn't want it happening again. And there is the workshop. So yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And that's the channel. So, all right. Well, I did a 45-minute sprint for the first one, and Martin, of course, he had to leave, but he IG messaged me and he was like, what is up with 45 minutes? So I was like, well, it works for me. He was like, so this is all about you. I know he was joking, but even though he's joking about it, right? Sometimes there's some realness couched in sarcasm. But is 45 minutes too much for you guys? Would you guys want a lower number? I do 25 minutes during the week, which is not always quite enough for me. So I don't know, maybe if I could lower to 30 minutes. I don't know. Oh, and she dropped the video too. Awesome. Thank you. And there's the video. So you can definitely check that out. But yeah, I can do another 45 minutes if you guys are good with that. But luckily, my website has a massive banner with queer fantasy written on it. But yeah, it's no fun when Amazon's algorithm messes with you for fun. It feels like it's their fun. But again, it is an AI program, which is not entirely smart. It's going off of what they think the readers will want based off of data they've collected and collated. So it's not always right. Because even though I'm using Chat GPT, right, I'm using it in regards to like mostly my fantasy stuff. It's fantasy, it's made up. But the keywords, they could be lying to me because they have shown how Chat GPT has given lies. Like it's pulling information from the web, but it doesn't mean that everything on the web is true. So you can ask it a question and it will lie to you. Savina, hello. 20 to 40 works best for me. So 45 minutes, right just out of your zone. Okay, let me pull up let me find a 30-minute sprint, which I do have a 30-minute timer because I was using Laura Nettles. And hers was 45. So I'll pull up my 30-minute one. I'm going to do my kitty cat one. So don't be distracted by it. I can find it. Where's that? And there it is. And now I'm going to share the timer to my screen. All right, well, if you guys are ready, we'll go ahead and go into our next one. Let me take that banner off. And we'll do 30 minutes. Let me put that up. I have 45 minute here. Edit. Okay. All right, we'll get started in 3, 2, 1, and go. And that is time. How did you guys do? I left out at the beginning to go get some coffee, and then I started back on the Bible series, and I added a few more things. And I thought, oh, I really want to, check in with the Chat GPT and say like, okay, give me some names for this and describe this character, because as a character it kind of threw out that I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. So if I run off the idea of that character, what does he do? What does he look like? I want to try that, but I want to videotape it or videotape. You can tell I'm older. I want to screen record it, which I can't screen record when I'm going live on the camera here because I use OBS, which will not let you screen record at the same time as you're using your camera for something. So I have to wait until after I'm off screen to do that. So I thought, well, what else can I do? And I thought, well, I do have 2 more alpha readers feedback that I need to go through for my first novel. And these are the ones that they just left a few notes, like just basically like instead of going through all the way through the document, they wrote me a couple paragraphs of like, things that they would like to see or whatever. And I thought, well, I can go through this and then take some notes about what I want to revise off of that, because I really do need to have my first novel kind of in place, like what are going to be those like specific things, especially like government and stuff like that, before going into the second novel, because that might have an impact on the second novel. So I thought, okay, well, I kind of need to do this to be prepared for writing my second novel during Camp Nano. So that's what I worked on. Amanda says I got through 1 page of work. Nice. Oh yeah, we are on a break. We are on a break, guys. So, make sure you move, back up. That means back up any of your work, and drink, stay hydrated, anything that you need to do to take care of you, since we are on this break right now. On the Shadows layer, hello, good morning. And have I used AI? Yes, but not for like the art or like writing a story. I use Replica, a companion bot, to read my story to and get her reactions. I have never heard of that. Hey, are you wrenched? I mean, I try to wrench everybody that I see, but I don't. Yes, you are wrenched, Shadows layer. Will you please drop a link to Replica? Because I am interested. I've never heard of that before. I mean, if you don't have it, that's fine. I will try to remember to come back to this stream later to get the name, because I know I do not have the greatest memory, guys. I will forget it. I think it's because I have too much going on in my head when it comes to my stories. Those things I can remember. Like I've written like whole chapters in my head. So I wrote the prologue and first 2 chapters for my next book in my head already. And the book after that, I've already written the prologue in chapter 1. So like I have all that going. I see the words, I visualize the scene. And I think that's why I can't keep anything else in my head. I think I got 544 words. Awesome. That's good progress. Sabina got 251, which is great. I don't think I can really word count for me. I wrote some stuff, but a lot, like I just copied over what the AI gave me. I copied that into my Bible, my series Bible, and then I changed it to where, changed the parts that I didn't like, or I thought of something else or whatever. So I just used it as an inspiration, but I had just copied that over, and then I changed it throughout, and I didn't keep track of what I changed. So I'm not keeping track of words, but I still see it as progress, because I am preparing myself and getting myself into a position that I feel comfortable and ready to go to write my second book. So I'm happy about that. Amanda says, this gave me an idea for a video using Chat GPT to come up with story ideas. I'll have to think about it more. I actually just watched a video. I think I still have it on my phone because I put it into my watch later list, where this guy took Chat GPT to write a video script. So, and he did an example of like the 3 best or the 3 top dog breeds for family pets or something like that, something along those lines. And so it gave him a script, and then he changed it to what he wanted. Like there was a couple things that he didn't, was worded weird or whatever. So he changed it a little bit. It wasn't a very long script. And then he plugged that into another AI program that did the video, and he said it was free. So I saved that in my watch later list. I'm gonna go back and be like, okay, let me look at that, because I have a feeling that the video creation part, the AI that creates the video, is probably not as free as what he's leading it to believe. Like it might be free for like the first 2 minutes, but if you want a longer video on that, you might have to pay for it or something. Because I've seen other programs like that. But you just plug your script in there and it comes up with a video. And it was like footage of real dogs. So it was, real footage. And then it put the words on the screen already for you. And then you could choose an AI voice to go with it. And he showed how to use all that. So basically made all the video from AI. And I'm like, wow. I wouldn't be surprised if YouTube's not flooded with a ton of these videos. I have noticed quite a few more shorts that you can tell are AI, like AI voice. And a lot of them will be like giving like a short summary of a movie. And you can, and like, if I've seen the movie, I'm like, okay, that was wrong. That was not the right thing. Or they would call a male character she and give the wrong pronoun or whatever. And so I was like, okay, you can tell this is someone who put this together real quick using AI and didn't even know or didn't bother to check it. And I say no, maybe they didn't know the language well enough to check it. I don't know. I don't know what the actual circumstances are behind the person making the video, but it could be someone who's not familiar with the language enough, and maybe that's why they're using the AI programs to create English language shorts. But yeah, I don't know. I probably need a hire editor or somebody to go through it, but then they're trying to do it for free, probably through AI. Sabina says, now I'm going to try and do some plotting. Need 24-month names for my fantasy Earth-like world with 8 seasons. Oh, that's very interesting. 24-month names. See, I would plug this into Chat GPT and tell me in a, you said it's an Earth-like world, but if it has 24 months and 8 seasons, and it's not going to be exactly Earth-like, right? I'm assuming it has, it's 8 seasons, unless it's just like our world and they're just breaking down the 4 seasons into each season is just another season, two seasons each. But if you have like actual like 8 different seasons with different weather, so because my fantasy, the fantasy romance I'm reading right now is a secondary Earth or second world, second Earth. It's a different names for it. Just means that's another world that's like Earth and that has one sun, one moon, and it's very similar setup. But continents may be different. Of course, histories are different. People and creatures could be different. So I don't know, but I would probably plug that in there and like put some into Chat GPT, and I'd probably plug in like some things that are specific to the cultures, like the month names. Are they based off of anything? Like, our month names, a lot of them came from rulers, like Augustus is August. And a lot of it was Latin. So yeah, it's interesting. I love names. I love figuring out different names and their meanings. And I find that the fun part when it comes to my creation. But when it comes to like minor characters, like this ruling council and the high counselor and the government setup for my kingdom, they have very little to do with what's actually going on. I'm like, I don't want to sit here and spend more time trying to find names that fit them. Just give me a name that I can assign to them that's their attributes. Only one of them appear in the story any length and has like speaking parts. So he's the only one that I really knew who he was and what he was about. But I was like, just give me names. So, and it did give me some, it gave me some good names. And for some reason it was like Viking names. It was what it felt like to me. It was giving me a lot of names in it with RIC. So I asked it to give me more names that did end in RIC, and it still gave me more with IRC, but it did give me more choices that were not RIC, along with the meanings. And so, I already closed my document, so I was going to look at it and tell you, but okay, I don't know what's going on. Chat GPT just like restarted. So won't go there either, but yeah. And I like taking Latin roots and prefixes and suffixes and using those in names. So like I had the Theraceum mountain range. And Theraceum was made up, I have it written down. It's gonna take me a minute to find it. So, but Theraceum was made up of 2 Latin, one is a root and one is the suffix. But I was trying to find something that would mean what I was thinking of as, and it's a mountain range that has very tall peaks, and on the very top is the castle for the dragon, where the dragon lives. I mean, he actually lives in the mountain, but when he's in human form, he's in the castle. And so I thought, well, what if it looks like a dragon? But I couldn't find anything that didn't scream dragon in the name from Latin roots. So I decided to call it the beast's bones, and so Theraceum, combining different Latin words, means the beast's bones, but not really, because it's not Latin, but I mean, that's what I made it in my story. So I like things like that. All right. Are you guys ready for another sprint? I am ready to get back into this next one. And for anyone new, if you have an answer to that question, you're welcome to answer. Have you used AI in any part of your creative process? Today, I've been talking a lot about using Chat GPT because I've used it for my creative process this morning before I came on the stream. And then I used it the other day for keywords, and then just playing around. I did a, if you guys didn't know, I did a live Q&A on my channel with Estelle Van de Velde. We're both self-publishers, although she is now pursuing a traditional path with her current novel because it's middle grade. But we talked about marketing and self-publishing. We did an hour on her channel, an hour on my channel. And after we were done, because we came up with ideas in case no one showed up to ask us questions, we came up with ideas to ask each other about. And so I was going to, bring Chat GPT on the screen, show her how I use it to find keywords for my book and my blurb and all that. So after the live was done, then we played around, we stayed backstage of StreamYard, and I pulled it up to show her, and I put her book title in there and get keywords. And then she went to me, she's an SEO, like that's her job. She does SEO marketing. And so she asked all like these SEO questions, and Chat GPT was like, we're not capable of doing that yet. And so I was like, okay. And she was like, yeah, it wasn't very helpful. But yeah, we played around with it. So, and thank you guys, Marie, for next time. Sorry, I could talk forever. And that's why I like my accountability sprints during the week, because I have to stop talking. I'm getting pulled into work stuff. Unfortunately, I have to cut my writing morning short. Wish you all great. Thank you, Clara, for coming. And hopefully I'll see you in the future. I'll be back again next week at 8, I believe, on Monday. Or I think is that Morgan? I think Morgan's 8. So then if she's at 8, I'm later. And one of us are at 8. And so, all right, let's go ahead and get this going for the next one. We've got to restart the timer, and we'll get going in 3, 2, 1, and start. And that is the end. How did you do? I actually got through the rest of my alpha reader feedback. When I first got everything from my alpha readers, I kind of looked at, okay, which one's going to take me the longest? And I did that one first. And that one was like 15 hours to go through all of their notes. And that was a fun one because they decided to change something in my story that was not originally there and I didn't plan to have, which then changed the rest of the story. So there was a lot to weave through because there was actually some good notes throughout, except for the changes that they made. And so I did go through it all. And then, and then I just went from one by one to the last ones that weren't as much. So I had 3 more left at the beginning of today, and I've already gone through all 3 of them because they were just ones that left me like a few paragraphs of notes and ideas and little sections that they found that were awkward, or one said that like I had the word shadow twice on one page. So I went and looked at it. And of course I did control find because I knew that my page number was going to be different from their notes because I wrote a note at the beginning of the document that I sent to them. So I put it in there and I was going to go find it. And I was like, wait, there's a lot of shadows here, or variations of the word shadow. So shadows, shadowed, things like that. I had 93 shadows in my book, and it's 112,000 words. It's about 8% of my words have some form of shadow. And I was like, I have to do a lot of work here on this word. So I'm going to get that fixed. We are on a break, by the way. Make sure you take care of you. Make sure you move, hydrate, back up your work, save it, whatever it is that you need to do so you don't lose it if you are writing or doing any part of the writing process. So, yep, now I'm done with all of my reader feedback. I've changed things on the actual document and then made a list of things that that made sense to me, that my reader said that they would like to see or added or changed or whatever. But, yeah, I think I need to start consolidating like my own thoughts with what the reader said and putting it like in some type of order of what I'm going to work on, because I do have to get the draft. The next draft goes to my beta readers in a little over a week. So I'm getting ready for that. Yes, thank you. And overall, it's good. So I was really happy about that. But I mean, I think I don't know if anyone else goes through this. Like I went through cycles. Like I like my book, I hate my book, I like my book, I hate my book. The story, right? And it's typically the same for me. So in the beginning, I'm loving it. About 30,000 word mark, I'm like, I'm hating it. I hate it usually for like the next 30,000 words. But by the time I get to the end, I'm like, okay, this is not bad. Still need some work, but I like it. And I sent it off to my readers. And of course, the first one I got was the one that changed half my story, basically, or the last like 30% of my story. So, and there was just so much that they wrote that they didn't like. There were things that they wrote that was positive for me to get something out of it. But I was like, okay, so they didn't really like it. And I remember feeling down, and my accountability partner was one of my alpha readers. And she was asking me how everything's going. And I kind of told her over text about it. And she was like, well, I'm at page 200 something, whatever it was. And she was like, you should be proud of what you've written here. This is really, really good. And I'm like, okay, yay. Feel a little bit better about it. So now I had 9 alpha readers, and I received feedback from 8 of them, which I think is a pretty good percentage. And the majority of them, so besides that one that changed a lot, there was one other who said they liked the story, but they didn't really care for many of the characters. Like they didn't like any of the characters in the beginning, and only one they felt was redeemable by the end. So I was like, but they liked the story. They said it again the second time, but I like the story. And I was like, well, I can't change the characters without changing the story, because the story happens based off of the characters. So I didn't really know what to do with that feedback. But other than that, everybody else really, really liked it. So I was happy. Well, I think there is, I don't know if there's a delay or anybody else has anything else they want to say, but I can talk for a long time. It's probably better if I just go ahead and get into another sprint, and we'll do another 30-minute one. And set this back up. Okay, Inka said something. Come back. I think sometimes there's a bit of delay through everything. I can't believe the nerve. I definitely wouldn't ask them to read for me again. Yeah, and that's because I think actually both of the ones who, like the one who changed my story and the one that they liked the story but not really the characters, both of them signed up to be an alpha reader and a beta reader. And, there was 4 roles that the people could sign up for. And I told them they could sign up for as many as they want, but let me know if they only wanted one. And if they only wanted one, which was their preference. So I think those two both said alpha and beta. And I wrote to them, I had never had an alpha reader before because I've written fantasy my whole life. So I felt pretty good about the fantasy part, but that romance part was new. So I thought, okay, let me use alpha readers, especially those who might know a little bit more about romance, or, I've read romance my entire life, not just fantasy romance, but just romance in general. So, let me just get some feedback on it. And so when they said they also want to be beta readers, I was like, well, I'm game if you are. I was like, I've never had alpha readers before, but especially the one that changed my story. I've gone back and forth between, saying, hey, I don't think our vision is the same for the novel, and I don't want you to waste your time in being a beta reader when the story does not take the direction that you might have hoped for, or something like that. But I was talking about this with somebody else, and the other option they thought was better, which is to tell them the same thing, but to leave it in their hands on whether or not they would like to continue as a beta reader. So the only thing I'm worried about is that they might get mad that I didn't change the story, but I don't know. And Inga got 475 words. Woo, great progress. Alrighty, well, let's go ahead and head into this next sprint, and we'll start in 3, 2, 1, and go. And that is time. Sorry, I was hitting all the wrong buttons, so I was trying to hit the right one there. Tell me how you did. I got super excited because one of my favorite podcasts to follow, when the first ones I started following when I decided I wanted to become a self-published author, was the Six Figure Author podcast. And Lindsay Broker is one of the authors that was on that podcast, which they still have. They have tons. They have years of episodes. Obviously, further back, when they talk about like marketing and things like that, it's not as useful because marketing changes all the time, and self-publishing platforms change as well. But there are times where they're just talking about, like their writing craft and how they approach their writing, and they all kind of write in different things. Like Andrea Pearson writes romance, although she's dabbled in fantasy. Lindsay Broker writes fantasy, but she also has science fiction romance and fantasy romance, but she's mostly fantasy, and some contemporary fantasy and epic fantasy settings. And then there's Joe Lowell. I don't know how you say his last name. I think he was just strictly fantasy, I think is what he was. But anyways, it was interesting listening to them. Anyways, Lindsay Broker was on Joanna Penn's podcast a couple weeks ago. And they're good friends. So she was like, you don't have the Six Figure Author podcast anymore. We don't know what's going on, because they'd always start their show talking about what they were doing, what were they working on, which is actually where I got my inspiration for how we do the beginning of my podcast with my hosts, Ben Pick from Running to Write and Morgan Lee, where we talk about, what's going on for us at that time. So, I thought that would be interesting. So I really miss it. They went off air last year. I think it was around June when they decided that they were done with the podcast, and they came back and did like one episode a couple months later. And I was like, yay, maybe they're going to come back. No, they're not coming back. But when Lindsay Broker was on Joanna Penn's podcast a couple weeks ago, she was like, we just haven't caught up for a while. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who'd like to know what's going on with you. And she was like, yeah, maybe we should do another podcast episode. And they just dropped another episode, like, right at the beginning of the last 30-minute block that we had. So I'm listening to that while I'm working on admin stuff for my book. So I don't have to think about creative processes, but putting things in place to get me ready. And while I'm listening to them, and they're going to talk about AI and Chat GPT, which is that's like my question for today. I start playing around with AI, and I played around with Midjourney last year in October/November, and then Chat GPT I started playing around with just today mostly. I mean, I played around with it this past Tuesday just for keywords and blurbs and stuff, and then today creatively. So they're going to talk about that. They haven't got to it yet. They're 25 minutes into the episode, but I'm sure they're going to get to. They're still just talking about what they've been doing, how they've even talked about how their sales have been down, like from last year to this year. And then Lindsay talked about how we were talking about categories earlier in this stream, but I think everybody I was talking with mostly in this stream have left now, but my sales are down for my books for the last couple months. And I'm like, it just kept going down. And now that KDP Rocket has put out this new feature where you can see sales trends, and I can see that how it's a huge drop off. And I can see why I was able to sell so much last year. It was not a lot, but so much compared to what I've been able to get accomplished this year. When I've been able to sell, my numbers are way, way down. And I thought maybe it was just the fantasy genre or the YA fantasy genre. And Lindsay Broker said that even since the categories changed, that her sales have also dropped off too. And Amazon put her, because she put out 2 books last year, both were romantic fantasy. And the first one did really well when she put out last year. And the second one kind of bombed. And she talked about, like, she thought it was the tropes that she used that didn't resonate with readers. But then she said this year, Amazon keeps putting those 2 books into epic fantasy and sword and sorcery fantasy. And she's like, it's fantasy romance. It needs to go in that category. And we were just talking earlier in the stream about, choosing the 10 categories to put your book into. Of course, only 3 show up. And Amazon's really only looking at 3, which they did say that they're really only looking at 3. And you can put your book into 10 categories. But Lindsay Broker's advice was just choose 3 categories. That way they don't pick one that doesn't really go with your book. Anyways, I thought that was interesting. So yeah. Okay. Where do we drop off here? I forgot to mark it. Yes, I did. Okay. We left off with Inka saying that she got 475 from the last sprint. And then Jocelyn came in. Hello. And she says, hi, guys. It's nice to see you. And doing well, she says, getting oil, some notes. And I think she said, I meant to say getting some notes. Yes, and I totally get it. Nia says she should take Loki for a walk. Wait, did I say hello when she came in? I feel like I missed her. No, I said hello. See, I told you it can happen in this stream, and I know I said hello to her, but I already forgot that I said hello, and I don't want to like leave anyone out. Um, and she was like, "Oh, before I go, hi, Jocelyn," but she was taking Loki out. She'll come back and check. I think I'm gonna do one more sprint, guys, and then I'm gonna call it a day because there are gonna be other sprints going on, and don't want to run into too many other people's streams. And I said bye and hi to Jocelyn and Nia, and yay for words because Jocelyn's getting her words, which she said that somewhere. I missed it. I meant to give you some notes. I don't know. I missed it. And smiley face. And then Rachel came in. Hello. Hope you're having a fantastic day. I am. I got through all my reader feedback from my alpha readers. Out of the 8, 6 of them really liked my story. 2 of them, it's kind of iffy. They liked parts, but they didn't like everything. So yeah. But I feel pretty good. I have a good way ahead of how I'm going to change things. So I need to get my mind wrapped around that, but I'll probably do that off screen because I think I need to go into deep thinking mode. I am number 5 on intellect on the Clifton Strengths measure, which if you are high, if it's in the top 5, intellect, if intellect is in your top 5, you're a person who needs to take in like this, absorb this information, and then you got to think about it for a while, which that is so me. And I'm high input. No, I think input was my number 5. So I think intellect was my number 3. So, high input is you like to collect information, like you collect objects, right? So I love collecting lots and lots of information. That's why I listen to lots of podcasts. and then I think having the intellect, I think about it for a long time before doing anything about it. When I don't really have a long time to think because I have a little over a week before I have to get my next draft to my beta readers. And I really would like to have all the changes in place when it goes to them to get a good idea and sense of the story if it's grown any better. So I said, oh yeah, having a good day. And Rachel says that their day will be fine after my hot brown morning potion. So hot brown, that reminds me of when I lived in Kentucky, especially I did my master's in Louisville, Spalding University in Louisville, which actually I commuted there from Hawaii because I first started attending my master's. I lived in Hawaii. And then we just so happened to get orders to Kentucky after that, which was great because I was pregnant at the end when we were moving. And if we weren't moving to where my college was at, I may not have finished my master's at the time. They did. I only had one more semester left. But because it was right there, I could, easily commute because I was having my son during that semester. And my mentor worked with me to really just turn in stuff to her without having to be in class most of the time. So that worked out well. And so the hot brown is like really, really like it's a popular thing there in Kentucky, especially in Louisville. Morning potion is brewing and it's stopped raining, so we're off to a good start. Yes, 587. Wow, you got a lot done. I got a lot written by hand and editing at the same or eating at the same time. Is that edit? I don't see words correctly. Eating at the same time. I think that's good. And I don't count my words when I'm writing by hand because it just takes too much time. But yeah, I do a lot of handwriting though. I think I'll probably go through what I have for book 4 to make sure there's consistency in character and lore and try to break the block I ran into. Oh, hello, RC. Workout finish. Awesome. I bet you feel pretty good right now. I always feel good after my workout. And I've been able to work out all 5 days this week since it's just me here. My husband and I, we switch off days who's going to the gym because one of us has to put the kiddo on the bus. But with it being spring break, I'm the only one here. I took all of his days. So I've been to the gym every day. And it feels really, really good. I'm going to kind of miss it when I go back to just 3 days next week. I mean, I could go to the gym on my own. But if I do not, I'm at the point right now in my author career and business, if I do not make it an appointment, it's not going to get done because everything else that does have an appointment date or deadline is going to get the higher priority. So I have an appointment with a trainer 3 days a week. So yeah. Awesome sauce to RC Scott. This new 50-pound kettlebell is humbling me. You'll get there. Wait. Y'all have sales? Not very many. Not very many. I've made like $11 so far this month, which is higher than it was for December, I believe. But like November, I brought home like $52. So yeah, I don't know. And I don't know. And I only think I got the $11 so far because I had like 3 people in 3 different places recommend my book. And I had sales directly following all 3 of those. So, and they don't even know each other. They just happen to talk about my book like almost successively within like a few days of each other. So I think that's what sold my book. Don't let it smell your fear. Conquer it, slay. Yes. In case there's 3 categories is best for ranking in theory, and it will always work for those who who also bots are solid. But for those of us starting out, Amazon doesn't know where to put us, hence my problem. Yeah, I totally get that. I still had an issue with mine because it kept mine in my categories when I first published them. But by the time I got to my third book, I was getting ready to publish my third book, and this is all in the same series. That's when it decided to put my other 2 books into children's categories. And I'm like, this is not a children's book. I was like, please do not make this a children's category, because the third book was definitely not children's material, not with the torture scene. And there's actually castration in the torture scene and another torture scene and then sexual abuse. And so, yeah. That's awesome, Shanon. I'm out of beta readers. After the heads up that book 3 was going to be sad and start going dark, but they came back sad, or real life got in the way, LOL. I had the same, my third book was actually, it was darker too. And it ended bittersweet compared to like my first novel was kind of lighthearted and cute and ended in a good place, which was not at all what I wasn't like not trying to do that, but I wasn't trying to do that at the same time. I just was getting the story going for the whole world. But I did have one beta reader that came back, which she didn't like that first book actually. So maybe that's why she liked the ending. I mean, she kind of liked the first book, but not really. So, alrighty. Oh, who book 3 Darkness Tones? I know, right? And I worried about it. I so worried about it, Rachel. I was like, oh my gosh, because I had reviews on my first book that said, this is a lighthearted read, take to the beach, blah, blah, blah. I had lots of reviews like that on my first book. And I was like, no. If someone picks up my first book, by the time they get, and they like it, by the time they get to the end of the series, they're probably not going to like it if it's for the reasons that was lighthearted and cute or whatever. But my critique partner was Morgan Lee, and she writes dark fantasy, and she really enjoyed it. She thought it was good. And then my accountability partner, she hadn't read any of my books, and I kept telling her how I was really worried about it. And she was like, this was like a week out from me starting to set up my files on KDP. And she was like, let me read your books and I'll let you know what I think. And I was like, okay. I gave her all 3 books. She read all 3 books like in less than a week. And then she was like, this is good. Go for it. I'm like, okay, cool. So I did. And it's done fairly well for those who have read it. So yeah. Don't let it hold you back. Because there were as many times I thought, I'm not going to publish this. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to rewrite it. I'm going to do something totally different. But I still published it. And it's done well with my audience who have stuck all the way through. So I have quite a few fans of the book who finished the series. And they have written to me through my email newsletter and like, when are you writing the next book? I can't wait for it. I'm like, kind of moving on to something else. I'm not writing anymore in that world right now. So yay, it's the weekend. So I'm glad that you are on your weekend, Martin. So are you going to get any writing done, or you've got other plans? Well, I'm going to do one more 30-minute sprint. And then I'll wrap it up. And I see there's Rachel, you said something. It's just not StreamYard yet, so I can't click on it. I see it on my phone. I don't know what the lag is. There it is. Same. There were only ever a very brief moment of intensity in the previous books, but book 3 went hard because you don't die 2 times and survive a god trying to rip out your heart without damage. Oh my gosh. I have the same thing. I have a god who's ripping out hearts. He does it to my 3 protagonists from each of the books. I think you might mean, do you mean yours like metaphorically? Because mine was not metaphorical. So, although one was more metaphorically with one of the sisters, she was in love with him, but he ripped out all 3 hearts of the 3 girls. My book 3 is coming out at the end of April, and it takes a bit of a turn. So we'll see how I go. Yeah. Well, you said you did have some very brief moment of intensity in previous books. That's better than where I was at. My first book, there was like nothing negative. There's this one gal who runs book promotions, and I joined her book promotion, but she always asks the same question: is there any kidnapping in your book? And if it is, you can't be in this promotion. So I always explain to her, yes, there's kidnapping in my book. A leprechaun kidnaps a sister, but there's like, there's nothing negative from it. Like, he doesn't like really torture her. I think he slaps her like once. He's trying to wake her up, and he's mad that he's attracted to her, so he slaps her. But it's more cute than being negative. But my second book, I did have attempted suicide. So that made it a bit darker. But that's all I really had. And then led right into book 3 with the torture and castration and ripping out hearts. And yeah. It's the book 3s, yeah. And what someone always, what many people told me always was that if you think about Harry Potter, the series, it got darker as the books went along. And the audience is right there for it. So that kind of, helped me feel good about continuing that. I'm looking at your next comment. No, Aries plunged her hand into MC's chest straight up. I have an Aries in mine too, because she's the daughter of Nyx, and Nyx is the Nyx has a night cave, which is where one of my Greek gods, Greek titans, spent most of his eternity, according to some of the Greek mythologies. So I have an Aries, but she was like the best friend of the Morrigan, not actually in the mythologies. I just made her the best friend of the Morrigan. I made that a true statement in my story, but before the Morrigan turned into who she was in the books. But yeah. But it was the Titan who plunged his hands into the MC's chest. But well, he didn't. He actually cut their chest open and then plunged his hands in to take the hearts out. More secrets and scenes. I know. I'm gonna have to read your books. Oh my god, it did get darker in Harry Potter. It sure did. Especially with kids' deaths and stuff like that. That's always a hard thing to put into stories, I think, because some people would be really turned off by it. So I didn't have any kids' deaths. My girls were young, but I mean, they were 16, 17 when the series started, and it's like almost 2 years later. So I guess they're almost 18, I think, by the time the series ends. So I guess they're technically still kids, but all right, I keep saying we're gonna start this. Let's do it. I have to set my timer back up again, but let me just go ahead and set everything else up here. We'll do one more 30-minute sprint. And we'll get started on 3, 2, 1, and go. And that is time. How did you guys do? That was the last sprint. I kind of finished putting together all my documents, and forgot that mute. Okay. I was listening to the Six Figure Author podcast still while I was doing admin stuff. So I re-looked at my timeline too to make sure that everything was straight for my second book to get ready to head into it. And we had a few people come in and people leave out. And why didn't I not mark where I left off? I didn't. I don't think I did. Yeah, I did. Okay. So we were talking, Rachel and I were talking about the Greek mythos, and she used Ares in her story. I did too. I used Ares in my story as well. So she was talking about it and how the other Olympians were gone because Ares devoured them. And I also have it that multiple pantheon, I don't know how you say that word, exists. I've heard it before, but I can't recall how you're supposed to say it. And if you didn't know, I'm partially tone deaf, so I can't remember what things are supposed to sound like all the time or think about how it's supposed to. I can't hear it in my head. So each ruling over their separate part of the world. And now I have to go to Shannon's book. And yeah, TBR never shrinks. Mine's the same, Rachel. Mine's the same. I want to go and read your books. I do. So oops, it jumped. So Eris was actually one of my favorite characters. I wrote that in there in my book because I made her as like a count. There's a word for it. And I can't remember what it is. When you have two characters in a book and they're counterpoints to each other because they're opposites. So, Hera is in the book and she's kind of a prude, even though she's there in Ireland because she ran from Zeus because she had her first affair after thousands of years of Zeus having all his affairs. But she's still a prude, and Eris just kind of gets on her nerves because she's not a prude. She's opposite. And she was really fun to write because of that. But I see, and Joanne said, hi, is it going for you, Rachel? And talked about my books a little bit. And then Rachel said, hi, Joanne, hope you're having a beautiful day. And then is it similar flirtiness to, yeah, because I said my Eris is she's flirty. And I did kind of channel the one from the Sinbad movie a little bit, although she's kind of wicked, right? The one in the movie is wicked and she's got evil intentions. And mine does not. She's there because she likes to stir up trouble. So she just does it because she likes to stir up trouble. And she knows that trying to track down Hera after she had an affair on her husband would be fun. So she likes to do whatever is going to cause mischief because, right, she's the goddess of discord. But I take it more of a fun way versus fun for her anyways, versus being like bad intentions. And then I love so recovering from nausea. So I was hoping that Joanne's going to feel better. Hopefully it does feel better. She feels better throughout the day. And she asked me what I was working on. So I talked about doing the admin for my book 2 to get it ready for, like, I'm ready to start writing book 2. I'm like holding my fingers from the keyboard to not write book 2 until I get to Camp Nano, because I know it's just going to fly when I actually start writing it. So I'm trying to not do it. So I'm trying to do other things that I think that would help me be in the best position to be prepared so I don't run into roadblocks during Camp Nano. I'm like, oh, I got to stop right here and figure this out first before I can go any further. So I'm trying to think about what those roadblocks could be. I know I'm not going to get all of them and try and get them lined up now so I don't, or I'm able to write as much as I can during Camp Nano and get the book done. It sounds like fun. She just finished eating brunch, diving into revisions for Project Sugar and Spice, and she was trying to pick a different occupation for the male main character's parents. Paramedic was the first option, but the developmental editor pointed out that it was only mentioned once or twice and never really delved into how it affects Xavier, which that could be definitely a great way to develop the main character if his parents' occupation has an impact on him. So she's trying to think of different ideas. Possibly chef at an upscale restaurant, but she doesn't know anything about that. She's trying to pick something that doesn't take as much research, which I totally understand, especially if it's a minor part of the book. And I was like, well, what if they have their own mom and pop restaurant? But they already do own a bakery. So why aren't they at the bakery? I know Xavier's continuing the legacy, but why aren't they still working there? That'd be my next question. I'm sure it makes sense for whoever you have in your novel, but I didn't know what else to offer at that point because I didn't know what that meant that they had a bakery, but they had a different job. I'm thinking I could have Xavier see baking as a hobby coping mechanism. Baking then slowly transforms into something he loves. And then JL showed up. Hello, all. Very busy. Won't be chatting much, but that's okay. Want to pop in and get the words in together, which that was my last one for the morning. Well, it's still morning for me. I have 5 more minutes and then it's afternoon. But that was the last one I'm doing for today. I will be back on Monday. What time? I don't remember what time. I should know what time. You think I would know what my own sprints are, but I am doing a lot of sprints. And I just set up like the first week in April sprints. I'm doing a sprint every day so far. So the one on Monday is at 12. Okay, because Morgan, my critique partner is Morgan Lee, and I don't like to run over hers because I love being in her streams and writing with her. So she starts at 8. So I put mine at 12. So I'm at 12 o'clock on Monday, but then I'm at 7 on Tuesday because I'm supposed to be on Emma Bennett's channel. It's her 1 year anniversary of being on YouTube. So I'm on her channel at 10 a.m. So I'm starting at 7, going really quick. And then Books by Adrian's at 3 that same day. So I have a very full day on Tuesday, but then back to 8 on Wednesday of next week. So I'm all over the place next week. So hopefully I'll get to see you, any of you guys possibly, or during NaNoWriMo, Camp NaNoWriMo. And the Dawdling Writers stopped by. Hello. Just want to say thank you for helping keeping the spreadsheet up to date. Yeah, you guys didn't know. I didn't tell you guys, but I have a secret role. I'm helping with the spreadsheet now, keeping it up to date with everybody's streams. So I do what I can because it's not like something I can like every day get in there and do, but I try to like do it for at least 5 to 10 minutes every morning that I'm getting on the computer. I try to think if I can do it, I do it. Joanne asked what JL was working on. Shadows there had head out because of a child's B-day, so they're probably gone already. And Jocelyn said hello to JL. And I said thanks to coming for Shadows there. And hello to JL and asking how she's doing. Inga got 535 words. Oh my goodness, you have had a very successful and productive writing sprints this morning on this stream. So I'm glad that was, I didn't even say that was very productive. Yes, it was very productive for you. And I feel pretty productive as well. Foils. Yes, foils. That was the word I was looking for. Foils. Hera and Eris are foils. I knew there was a term for it. Couldn't think of it. So I was like counterpoint, the counter. So, all righty, guys. Thank you so much for being here with me today and helping me get prepped for NaNoWriMo. And I'm looking forward to NaNoWriMo starting. Actually, I said I was going to do a stream every day. I do have a stream set up every day from the 1st through the 7th, but I'm wondering if I might not take a couple of days off. I don't know. I'll see how I feel because I started thinking about it. I felt a little bit of stress, which it didn't feel that way when I did a stream every day in November. And I'm wondering if I'm just feeling that stress because I'm trying to hurry and get these revisions done on my first book and get it to my beta readers, which happens before Nano starts, and then start on my second book. And so I'm just feeling the pressure a little bit. So I don't know. But yeah, thanks for this, friends. Thank you for coming to Jocelyn. And I will end it there. I will keep on talking if I don't. So I will see you guys later and have a great weekend. Bye, y'all.